Hi everyone, today I'm going to be colouring in one of these acorns from Johanna Basford's book Enchanted Forest. Now I'm going to be using a tutorial from a book. It's Colorist Special Effects 4 by Helen Elliston. She has said that I can do this tutorial and sort of talk you through it using the instructions from the book. Now I have slightly adapted what the instructions are in the book, and you'll see why as I go along. Now the first stage is to colour in Prismacolor Seashell Pink over the whole of the acorn. Now I'm going to be doing this one. The first problem I have is I don't have any Prismas, so I have picked to do with Polychromos, and here is my first choice. I don't know if you can see that, it's not very good, is it? This is Light Flesh, which is number 132. They have changed the name of this pencil since I bought them, so that's why I give you the number for this one, 132 Light Flesh. So that's what I'm going to use, and it's supposed to go over the whole of the acorn, so I'm just going to colour that in. Now I did do it quite lightly. It doesn't say to apply any pressure, so I just do it as a very light background over the whole thing. Now as you can see, I'm going quite fast. I don't think it really needs to be too neat and tidy on this first stage. It's going to be the sort of lowest layer of colour. So there's that first stage done, nice and easy. Now the second stage is to do mineral orange. Now again, I had to substitute with a Polychromos pencil. This is mine that I've chosen, which is Terracotta. Now for this one, it says to burnish it and fade it, and this is just for the nut part, not for this base bit. Now because it says to burnish it with a Polychromo, you have to do lots of layers. Pressing down really hard isn't really a good technique. It's just going to dent the paper and spoil the book. So I'm going to do a selection of layers. Now the good thing with doing light layers as well is that if you don't like the colour or you make a mistake, it's much easier to rub it out or to cover it over with something else. If you've burnished it down really hard initially, then there isn't really any taking away from that. So I'm just going to colour this in. As you can see, I'm leaving a little pale area. Now what Helen's final picture is there's a little shiny bit on the nut. It makes it look like it's catching the light, so I'm going to try and leave that as I colour so that we get that effect later on. You can add white pencil or something like that to make it stand out, or even rub it out, which is something I have sometimes had to do. But it's nicer to try and leave it at the beginning. It also gives you an idea of what you're doing. So I'm going over and over this until I feel like it's a nice, good layer of colour. Obviously you don't want to add so much colour that you've pushed it right into the paper and there's no room left for any other layers of colour on top. And it's something I guess you get to learn as you're using the colours more and more as to how many sort of layers to do. But I'm having a look at that and thinking that's probably enough, but I can always go back in with a bit more later if I feel like it needs to be a bit more sort of orangey in colour. Now the next stage is a Sienna Brown. So I've picked the Polychromos Burnt Sienna for this. Now it's a slightly sort of purpley colour, but I think it worked quite well when I tried it out. So now this is on both parts of the nut. I'm going to start with this part first. So we darken some of the areas. I'm following the guide picture in the book as to which parts to darken, so it's a lot darker along here where it meets this sort of holder part, which is makes sense, and then sort of up the edges a little bit. And I'm going to put more shade on this, darker on this side, away from this sort of part. I'm not going to go too dark up to there at the moment. So I'm just adding a bit of this. Now on the base of the nut, her picture on this bit, I don't know what it's called, on her picture it's a blank piece, and rather like this one here, and she draws in some shapes which looks really good. But I've chosen this one because I didn't want to show you my drawing skills today because they aren't up to scratch. So I chose this one which was all shaped for me. So what I'm going to do is just try and shade in where I think the dark areas might be. So I'm thinking if I do the edges of this here, it looks like it's more curved, and then some shade maybe from under here and perhaps coming up from this end, and then on the bottoms of these here. So we're just gently putting a little bit along the bottoms of each of these little pieces. I'll see how it looks after, and I might change my mind and decide to sort of do a little bit different. Now this is the next colour is Mahogany Red. So I have picked, sorry you can't see that, holding it out of shot. This is the Caput Mortem Violet. So this is just the next shade up from the burnt sienna really. Again, it's a sort of violet colour, but I thought it worked quite well. Now the instruction in the book is to do some curves, so we want to sort of follow the shape of the nut, and this helps to give it a more three-dimensional look, I expect. That's what I think it does anyway. So I'm going to do a few lines around here in this one. Not too much, not a bit too dark, but just to darken up a little bit. Okay, and you can see how that shine is really starting to show up more with the different colours being added. Now, the next stage is for dark brown. Now, I took my darkest brown that I had, which I thought is probably the Walnut Brown. It's quite hard, there are a couple of dark browns in Polychromos, I'm not quite sure which is darkest, but I do like this Walnut Brown. And this one is supposed to be for up and down texture and for shadow. So I thought I'd emphasise some of these lines and also go down into these parts to add the shadow. Again, we're just working on this nut part at the moment. We haven't had any instructions for the bottom part yet for a bit. So I'm just going to add those bits in, like that. Okay, now we go back to working on this bit. Now Goldenrod is the colour for this. Now I found nothing in the Polychromos, so I went into my precious Derwent Lightfast tin and found this dark honey colour, which I think is really gorgeous. Even if it's not quite the right colour, it's just a lovely colour. And now her instructions are very specific to the things that she's drawn on her piece, so I'm just going to guess and sort of play around with it. So I'm going to start off darker at the bottom and then just lighten up. I'm going to make sure there's a layer over all of this, but just a light layer. Now the Derwent Lightfast really come down in a very saturated colour when you touch. It's almost like the paper just massages the colour off, so I don't want to press very hard at all, and then I can always add more. If I press down too much, it's going to be quite difficult to erase once it's down on the paper. So I'm just going to darken up those bottom bits a little bit and leave those ends lighter, and move in a bit with this, take it in. And here, I think I'm going to eliminate the white on that stalk entirely because it isn't really rounded, but try and leave a little bit in the middle there. So that's that bit. Now she has some more specific details about working this shell part, which I'll have to ignore because I haven't done it in the same way as her, but it looks really great. You'll have to get the book if you want to have a look. Now lastly, we're going with some black. Here's my little black. It's just about showing that it's black, nearly sharpened the word off. And now we go in to add in all the shadows. So I'm going to start here along this bit and just start in the corner and just draw it out a little bit, but really gently. Don't want to go in with too much black and darken it, or else it can have a tendency, black, to make things look a bit dirty and smudgy. So need to just be gentle. And with some pictures, it's better to use other dark shades rather than black. It works quite well with these colours. It doesn't always work in all pictures. Now, I'm going to go in with a little bit down here. You see, I'm just pressing ever so gently. I just want to give the impression of a little bit of shadow. And on the bottom of these, across here, just a little bit. And then I'm going to go between each one of these. I'm just going to go over the line that's there, just take it out the tiniest bit with a little bit of light pressure, just to shadow it either side. Right, and now I'm looking at that and I'm thinking this shiny area here, I think it's a little bit too big. So I'm going to go back in with our very initial colour and just darken up the edges very, very gently, bring it in, just really lightly and gently, just bit by bit, until I feel that it looks about right, a bit more natural. And then I'm going to go in with a bit of the terracotta as well, just to sort of blend that in. There we go. And I'm happy with that. I think that looks really nice. I'm very happy. And I shall hold it up to the camera so you can see it a little bit better, if I can find it. There we go. And you can see I've did these others as well. Some of them are a bit darker. I did more layers of colour on that one. I'll bring it out so you can focus it. That one I did a stripe of white fine liner pen instead of a sort of white gel pen, instead of leaving the gap. But I thought these ones with the shiny bit look more natural. So there we go. I think I'll probably add a few more darker layers onto this one to make it look a bit more like the others. But actually, you can see how quickly it was to do that. And I've just got the rest of this whole page to finish now. But I hope you enjoyed that tutorial. And there's plenty more of these in Helen's book. And I will put a link to Helen's book in the description so that you can have a look at it for yourself. I've also got a flip through of her book showing you all the different tutorials that she has in there, and I'll put a link to that as well in the description, so you can pop and have a look at that video if you want to. So thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it.